Right here from RV Maintenance Mechanical Things. I recently bought a couple steer tires and I wanted to share some of my research with you. I just happened to run across it today and give you some of the reasons that I did it. Somebody had asked a question on a forum about a tire pressure monitoring system, and I had responded saying that I thought going with a bigger tire and carrying less air pressure made sense. I didn't like to run at manufacturer's maximum air pressure. Somebody pointed out, well, that's maximum cold air pressure. Okay, whatever. Let me put it another way. I don't like running 110 pounds of air pressure in my tires to support 12,000 pounds on my steer axle. Period. Cold air pressure, high air pressure, whatever. Basically, they say you have a 20% gain from the heat. So if you're running 110 pounds, that's 22 pounds, so you're 132 pounds. I've seen on some YouTube videos where the RVers have their coach, and it's a tag axle coach, so he's got 6 tires and he's got 138 pounds as his high pressure warning. I'm sorry, I'm not comfortable with running that kind of air pressure. I have my first tire pressure monitoring system on my first Class A. Having said that, I've got 2 million miles of running a semi down a road. And 18 tires times, let's just say I've bought 200 tires in my lifetime of the size that you would put on a Class A RV, and I don't ever recall having a blowout from a tire that was in good shape. In other words, I didn't have a surprise. I have had recap tires blow out. That's how come I didn't buy them anymore. Once I had bought a set and experienced ripped off quarter fenders, light bars, twisted cross sills, and all the other damage that they do, even though they ultrasound them, they can't tell if that tire was ever run low before and if it's actually got weak steel in the belts. They just can't see that, I don't think. They can see physical damage that the eye won't pick up, but that's it. So at any rate, I had a shimmy in my Class A, up over 60 miles an hour right in a cruising range, and it annoyed me. It'd come and go, and I thought if it was a balance issue, then it would be start at a certain point and get worse, and I guess if you could go fast enough it might disappear. I don't know, but didn't like that. I got to looking around after I had like 4,000 miles on a coach, and looked over everything. I replaced the shocks. That's a whole nother story I got on YouTube where the bolts were put in backwards. That was really circus. So anyway, when I went to check the gross setting on a toe, I put a board across the front of the tire, and the ribs on the left front were all on an angle. To me, that means I've got a belt slipping in the tire, even though you physically can't see any damage to the tire. So I decided to put a set of tires on there. There's other YouTube videos that I've seen where they said they, had 10-year-old RV tires, and because they were 10-year-old, maximum recommendation to manufacturer, they spent $8,000 putting 8 tires on their coach. I'm never planning on spending $8,000 putting tires on my coach. I really don't think it's necessary. And so anyway, in doing my research here, the specification brochure for the Coachman says that, which I own, says that it takes a 275 AR 22.5. Okay, the tire dealer couldn't even give me that size. This is probably something made for the RV industry because they can buy so many of them. The manufacturer will run them, and that's what it would take to support 12,000 pounds. What that steer axle is spec'd for. At 110 psi, which is the maximum cold air pressure, they'll support just over 6,000 pounds apiece. Tires that were on there. Well, I'm not too happy with that. My steer axle has 10,680 pounds on it when I weighed it. So that means that, say I have 11,000 pounds on there, the tire technically can support that weight. Okay. The coach I have has evidence of already having a blowout. That's probably when they put these Hankok's on here because I don't have a new coach, and they look great, but they're 6 years old, and the tire dealer wanted me to replace all 6 of them, and I don't feel I have to do that. So I bought two for the front of it. I spent about $1,000, and they're 16 ply. They're 295 ADR 22.5s. Singly at 125 psi, they'll support 7,800 pounds, so almost 14,000 pounds. I'm sorry, 16,000 pounds on a pair if you want to run 125 pounds air pressure in them. So at 90 psi, they'll support 12,440 pounds, which is a ton more than I'm carrying on the steer axle. So that's 1,000 pounds more per tire at 90 psi. Okay, air up a basketball, overpressure a basketball once and see how it bounces. I don't think your tire is going to be much different. And so what you have trying to control that bounce is your shocks, your springs, and it's going to affect your ride. So with my tire pressure monitoring system, which I never had the benefit of when I owned a semi, tells me that I have the alarm set for 20% of gain. So in other words, at 90 psi, when I gain 18 pounds, the alarm would go off. Well, I haven't gained 20%. They will go up over 100 psi, like about 102. But I guess my feeling is I don't like to see a tire running 110 pounds of air pressure and then gain 22 and come up to 132 pounds of air pressure. To me, I would think that that's just my way of the way my logic works, is that you'd be getting a poor ride and you'd be putting that tire at the maximum capacity that it's capable of according to the manufacturer. So the tires, in my opinion, that I have on my coach aren't even near what the maximum is for the manufacturers. At some point, I'd hope to put a safety steer on there just because coach doesn't handle a bus, air ride bus doesn't handle like a semi does. But I ran 80,000 pounds at speed, and in my experience, this should be quite adequate. And then when I replace the tires on the back, I've got plenty of room on the back to put these 295s on the back. I'll put the same style on there. They're Toyo M144s, and at 80 psi, they'll handle 20,000 pounds, and I have less than 17,000 pounds on the rear axle, according to my weight ticket. So I think that'll be adequate. I just feel that sometimes supersizing makes sense. Maybe not at a meal at a restaurant for me, but for my tires. One caveat to this, and I was struggling with going with the extra height or size, was on tight turns they were rubbing the inner liner, the front liner on my wheel wells, and so I cut and rewelded the support that's behind them to give them a little more room. But I think they'll run fine. I put 4,000 miles on them, got rid of my vibration. I don't believe there's anything wrong with my front end. I went over it. I used to do a lot of my maintenance on my semis, and I think it'll be just fine. So I guess all this to say, I don't really believe that it's a good idea to replace tires on a coach that are at their maximum carrying capacity. So that's all I can think of to say on the subject. I hope this helps somebody. That's the whole object for me taking the time to do it. Thanks for watching.